Okay, welcome to Into the Channel podcast, primarily about women's football. I am your host, Dino De Cespedes, and as always, I am joined by my co-host, Mr. Grant Engel. What is up, man?
I'll venture to say I'm feeling fantastic because we're going to preview the proper NWSL season, Challenge Cup out of the way. We have season matches to be played, an NWSL Shield to be awarded, and we're going to do something no sports podcast hosted by two bros has ever done, and that's make some preseason predictions.
Love that. I'm ready. I feel like Eminem and 8 Mile. I feel like everything in my life has been building up to this moment. It's NWSL, the true NWSL preview. We've done like 4 mini half sort of NWSL previews, but this one's the real deal. So I'm definitely excited to get into it with you. A couple of the mechanics. So we're going to walk through all 14 teams. We did our NWSL team draft maybe a couple weeks back where, I'm taking the lead on 7. You're taking the lead on 7. I love the balance there. It's like evidence of a true partnership. And what we're going to do is we're going to categorize these teams into some tiers, going from bottom to top. You're either going to be in the bottom 3, on the bubble, a playoff team, a top 4 team, or a true contender. And I think we'll slot everybody into one of those 5 categories. And then just, talk a little bit about each squad. Did anything happen in the offseason that caught our attention? Anything that we're going to be watching for early in the season? Just kind of see, all right, well, how did this work out? Or how's this going to work out? How's this new coach going to do? So a lot to cover, but we'll try to move through pretty quickly so we can hit all 14 teams. And then, make some predictions, hand out some preseason awards. I'm fucking ready, man. Where do you want to get started?
I think there's only one place to get started, and that would be in your current hometown, the double winners, the Orlando Pride.
Love it. Well, disappointing Challenge Cup experience this season, but I think the vibe's still pretty positive. I think, the team was really happy with the way they played, but you look at a couple players, well, let's say a few players that Orlando's brought in. Priska Chilufya from Zambia, who made 3 appearances in the Olympics. She is coming from Juarez, where she made 48 appearances, 14 goals there. Grace Chanda, another Zambian Copper Queen superstar, came over last year from Madrid CFF. Didn't get a chance to play. I think she got hurt on the heels of that one appearance for Zambia in the Olympics. And then from Spain, from Real Madrid, Oyane Hernandez, 24-year-old defender. She made 6 appearances during Spain's 2023 World Cup run, 4 appearances in the Olympics, tons of experience, international and club. I mentioned Real Madrid, obviously playing for Spain. Still just 24 years old as a defender. I think that's kind of like a sneaky, interesting signing when you think about this defense. Emily Sams, Kylie Nadanner, Rafaele back, Carrie Abello made the NWSL's second 11 last season. Corey Dyke, the only ITC Hall of Famer on the Orlando Pride.
There you go.
And then you add Oyane Hernandez to that mix. That's a real defensive room right there.
It's got to be a pretty intense rotation that Seb Hines is going to try to play. I mean, when you have that much talent, players, and, we've talked about the culture there, and it seems good and it seems competitive. Obviously, you don't win a double, or I would imagine it would be nearly impossible to win a double without a great culture. But you got to get these players some run because they all should supremely believe in themselves. And if you fall out of the rotation, you might be knocking on Haley Carter's door saying, can I go somewhere where they will actually play me? And I don't think that is any kind of negative thing to say about anybody's character. These are professional athletes who want to be on the field because they believe in themselves. So I think it's going to be interesting to watch how Seb Hines manages it. And if he manages it well, which we have no reason to believe that he wouldn't, they could just have a dominating defense for the second consecutive year.
Yeah, man, absolutely. And a couple of things. Well, actually, I got 3 things. One, we haven't cracked the beers yet. And that's usually your department.
What are we doing?
Where you kind of...
See, this is the accountability.
Let's make it happen. NWSL preview.
Yeah. In honor of Orlando Pride's great culture, that's the accountability we need on this program. Thank you for that.
I love it. Cheers. Cheers to the Orlando Pride.
Cheers to the double winners, the holders.
Let's go. Love that. I actually, when you mentioned, what kind of walking into Haley Carter's office, I kind of feel like the personalities on that defense are like, no, I want to stay here and I want to win that job back. I want to win minutes.
That's true.
So I think that's definitely the vibe. Quick audible here. I want to reintroduce Card Corner. Speaking of Oyane Hernandez, I picked up this bad boy.
Let's go.
This is an Oyane Hernandez rookie card, her playing for Spain, and it's numbered to 5. So this green version, there's only 5 of these babies, and this is 4 of 5. And much like my Banda rookie card that I bought from the same 2023 World Cup Donruss set, I picked up those cards before these players played for the Pride. So I'm in some kind of weird rhythm. It's like, Banda was still playing internationally, and I think I grabbed the card, and now she's playing here. And then like when Orlando signs Hernandez, I'm like, yes, let's go. She's in my collection, and I've got like a really great card from her. That one set me back $24, but I think well worth it. Super limited edition, and I'm excited with my purchase. And that concludes the second ever edition of Card Corner. Thanks for hanging out.
That is fucking fantastic. I mean, we got to figure out what is the pipeline from Dino purchasing player cards to Haley Carter and the scouting department being like, yes, that player over there, that's who we want. And what is your cut of the transfer fee?
That's a good question. Well, I mean, if Haley's snooping around my eBay purchases, then chances are she's got her eyes on Lauren James, because I've been on quite the LJ kick.
That's outstanding. You know what? As a GM, you can never leave any stone unturned. So who knows how she's scouting players?
Yeah, I mean, she's probably listening right now. Shout out to Haley. Okay, so quick prediction. With regard to categories, I put Orlando in the true contender category for me. So when I think about what their ceiling is, best case scenario, nobody scores on them. They stay as healthy as they did last year, which was a definite factor. Marta continues to freeze time, or maybe reverse time. I'm not really sure, but she's doing some kind of wizardry. Mm-hmm. And I think that they've got a good chance of repeating either as the Shield winners or as the champions. But if I had to pick one, I think in a knockout style tournament, things get tight. We talked about you talked about within a final, like kind of how those tend to be like in the 1-0 category. That's what we saw last year.
Yep.
I think that's a scenario where Orlando's really, really tough to beat. But I think Orlando's going to contend for both trophies, and I think they've got a really, really good shot of winning one of them.
Yeah, totally fair. I mean, there's no other way to look at them. They will challenge for both trophies, no doubt.
Agreed. Okay, let's shift gears. Let's head out your way. Seattle Reign FC, led by Laura Harvey. What do we need to know about the Reign?
Laura Harvey is a legend. Seattle Reign Football Club has been one of the best managed and most successful clubs in the history of the NWSL. We might be looking at the other side of the table from Orlando Pride, not just the other side of the country. But that's okay, because you can't be a true contender every single year. So, look, they have a lot of players with a ton of experience, but you're kind of left wondering how they're going to hold up throughout the season. You think about Lynn Biondolo, Lou Barnes, Ji So-Yun, Jess Fishlock, Anna Maria Srdogorsevich on the back end of their careers. I think it's not impolite to say that. But then they also have a lot of young players, which I think is really exciting for the club. Emery Adamas, Jordan Bugg, Ainsley McCammon, who's going to play defensive midfielder, who I think is going to have a lot of responsibility this season, and Maddie Darlene, freshly picked up out of college. They're teenagers, and they're going to have some growing pains. Emery Adamas showed some great flashes last year, as did Jordan Bugg. But, this is a grown person's league, and it's hard to play 26 matches and hold up against a bunch of professional athletes who are grown adults. So I'm going to be watching that very carefully. You have the addition of Madison Curry from Angel City FC. She's 24. Her first season in the league for Angel City was quite impressive. So I think she will bolster the back line. It's obviously that sorely missed Sofia Huerta after her loan last year to Lyon. Yep. But I just think that at the end of the day, you have the two big questions are, how are the young players going to look? And secondly, how's this team going to score goals? Because they had a hell of a time trying to score goals last year. The Biondolo acquisition is obviously meant to help that. I'm very eager to see how it plays out over the course of 26 matches.
I mean, I think there's a chance. I mean, somebody was in our comments back when we were talking about the transfer window, talking about, okay, well, Biondolo didn't play too many minutes for Gotham and not really sure what to expect. But I think that is true. But also Gotham had a ton of just personnel to kind of move around and, try to balance, and then chemistry wise, try to figure that out. But I think from watching Biondolo play for the U.S. Women's National Team recently, she believes she's still, at worst, near the top of her game. I think physically she looks very tough to handle. And I think this time in Seattle could be an opportunity for her to kind of feature, as, maybe like a lead goal scorer and like maybe like a veteran presence up there to really kind of cash in and kind of keep them in games. So who knows? I mean, if those matches last year where, they're 70 minutes, without scoring, if that's a 1 or a 2 instead, maybe it kind of changes the tenor.
Sure.
I think I'm going to surprise you with this. So I ranked teams 1 through 14 coming into it. I had Seattle probably on the strength of like Laura Harvey's genius and the seriousness with which this team kind of plays. And like, you just look at some of the shenanigans going on like other cities, across the league.
Yeah.
And I had Seattle 7th in the playoffs on my board. I think we see a couple of those young players bubble up. Adamas, we've already seen flashes in this league from her.
Yes.
Jordan Bugg, obviously, has the profile of a player that has a great future. I mean, if some of those things can get accelerated, I think this team can sneak into the playoffs. This feels like a professional football team, even though they've got a younger profile.
Okay. Wow. I like that. Extremely interesting. So anybody from Seattle Reign FC Communications who might be watching this podcast, as you heard there, Into the Channel's official prediction is that you make the playoffs. You make number 7. I'm predicting they'll finish in the bottom 3. That's not important. Dino picked them to finish number 7 on the table and in the playoffs. I do want to shout out one more quick one. Narilia Mondesir, Haitian international. I think she's like 26 or 27 off the top of my head. Entering her physical prime in this league. She's another player who I'm just like, okay, now full camp, little bit of experience last year after she came over mid-season. If she hits her ceiling, then I think your prediction starts to look really good.
Can't wait to see it come to pass. All right, let's shift gears. Probably the next team that I'm going to be covering, let's say, Bay FC, playing out in San Francisco. Asisat Oshuala quietly led the team in goals last season with 7. I think that was a little surprised by that because I think a little bit of disappointment, kind of floating around, the Oshuala-Kundanaji pairing. Abby Dahlkemper, the vet, 30-year-old defender, made a huge difference in that team's fortunes. When she joins, they won 5 of the 9 matches that she appeared in. Hannah Bibar, 23-year-old midfielder from Duke, real player. She also got U17 and U20 experience for the U.S. Women's National Team. Bay FC also brought on Sabrina Ionescu as an investor and advisor. That's pretty cool. And they also signed University of California, Berkeley forward Carly Lima to a 3-year deal, 16 goals and 21 appearances, ACC Offensive Player of the Year. On the flip side, though, this team, even though they made the playoffs, 4th worst, 14 losses last year. They only had the 1 draw. So it was either, basically we're going to gun it, try to win it, or we'll take the L and kind of be on our way. I'm interested to hear, kind of like what you're going to be looking for from this Bay FC side.
As has been discussed on this podcast, especially toward the end of last season, I believed in Bay FC. Even when they were having those early season struggles, I was like, you know what? There's something there. I know this team can score. Obviously, you got Oshuala. Obviously, you have Kundanaji. So I'm going to rectify this. I will not be a coward. I think Bay FC are going to be very good this year. Rachel Kundanaji was number 1 in expected assists and number 2 in passes into the penalty in the league last year. I'd love to see that kind of distributor, or that, like, instead of maybe I have a pretty good shot, but there's a better opportunity with a pass here running up on the goalkeeper in the danger area. So I want to see that develop from Kundanaji. If I could be so bold and make my prediction right now, I think I'm going to have Bay FC in the top 4.
Whoa.
Let's go. No cowardice this year. I should have picked them to make the playoffs last year. It was disgraceful performance by me that I didn't. I'm not letting it happen again.
Wow. Bay FC top 4. I love that. That's a great pick. That's a great bold pick. I was like, all right, maybe let's see if he puts Bay FC in the playoffs for real this year. But top 4, I love that. Can't wait to hear the rest of your top 4. Although I could probably make a guess of what the rest of it looks like. But yeah, I love it. Great pick. I've got Bay probably a little lower. I think I had them like on the bubble. Their ceiling is probably like, I don't know, maybe 5th or 6th. Maybe 5th is even a stretch. Probably 6th. I think they could make the playoffs, but you've got them at top 4. That means that maybe you might expect them to be in the semifinal. And who knows? I mean, once I show up, I've been known to kind of bring some good fortune to some of these squads. So maybe the same happens at Bay FC.
All we need is for you to buy another player card from some player in Europe, and then they just end up over at Bay FC, and then they're a juggernaut. Who knows?
I love it. Yeah, let's go, LJ. Take her away from Chelsea. Yeah, let's make that happen. Back over to your turf, the Washington Spirit. What do we need to know about the 2025 Challenge Cup winners?
Well, I think the Challenge Cup winners need to get healthy. Although they showed they can still play a hell of a football match with these injuries, but you'd never know how sustainable that would be. They do have a stacked roster and clearly one of the best managers in the world. Lacey Santos looked comfortable. She looked dangerous. We talked about it in I don't want to rehash too much of the Challenge Cup review episode, but Hirschfeld and Narumi look like they're going to be a great fit together. Bethune is on her way back. Rodman is on her way back. I'm not too sure about Ole Sarr. Injury updates can be hard to come by in this league. But Ashley Hatch looks great. She's obviously a great fit. I thought she was fine in the Challenge Cup. But, what's not to like about a team where you have at least 3 players who will challenge for the NWSL best 11 and maybe the best coach in the league?
Yeah, and you might have 2 players challenging for the MVP. So we'll make some MVP picks later, but you might have at least 2. And then I might surprise you with my midfielder of the year pick. We'll circle back to that one a little bit later. Prediction wise, where do you have this Washington Spirit side?
Again, top 4 challenging for the Shield, and we'll get to more in the awards and the final predictions.
Love it. Yeah, I've got them probably like 1/2 a tier up in that true contender section. I think they can win either. They're going to challenge for both. So Washington is as mentioned prior in our Challenge Cup recap. This is going to be an extremely dangerous team. On their best day, it can beat any team. Just full stop.
100%. Sorry I broke the game. I have them true contenders also. Yeah, sorry. For some reason I have top 4, but yeah, true contenders. They're going to challenge for trophies.
Wonderful. Yeah, we made some little like late game reworkings to the tiers, but we keep it
preseason
until Friday. All right, Kansas City Current. Back onto my beat, led by Vlatko Andonovski. So this team, I also have this team in the true contender status. So they're still as loaded as ever. MVP Temwa Chewinga, Bia, Debinha, Lola Bonta, DiBernardo, Michelle Cooper, Claire Hutton, a couple players now that have some national team experience under their belt. The one thing that I think about is this isn't a young team. A few of those players I mentioned are over 30 years old. So not just are you contending with potential slowdown, but injuries play a factor for players, kind of like, at that age. And they're going to need to stay relatively healthy, but they've definitely got the talent to really make a ton of noise this season.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I would agree with you. Well, okay, if true contender is a half step above top 4, I mean, I don't think there's going to be much separating top 4. So again, here I am ruining the game. I'm going to say top 4 contender-ish. I'm making up a new one in between. They're in the mix. They have to be in the mix. Like you said, they're absolutely loaded. I absolutely love the addition of 27-year-old Brazilian goalkeeper Lorena. She played every second of the 2024 Olympics, kept 3 clean sheets, left with a silver medal, 6 matches, 6 clean sheets to win Copa America in 2022. And I think it's important to point out, it's a great point that they have some of their important players are over 30 now. I think Labonta is either she just turned 30 or she's going to turn 31. DiBernardo is 31-ish, somewhere in that ballpark. But of their 10 field players who played the most minutes for them last season, all 10 are back in the squad this season. Something to be said for continuity.
100%. Yeah, and the coach is still there. And unfinished business. I think they want to win. They want to push really hard. And yeah, the way that I kind of discern true contender from top 4 is like, okay, if you got Bay FC in your top 4, I don't know if you're claiming that Bay FC, it maybe is a contender for one of these titles. Maybe you are. But I think there definitely is there's definitely a drop off after 3. So I've got Orlando, Washington, KC in a tier of their own. They can each win a trophy. They're each going to push or can push for both. And then top 4 is probably. Let's see who I've got. No, okay, I've got some in my top 4 that I think won't be too much of a surprise. But my 5th place team, I can't wait to get to them. Very excited about that. Okay, let's fast forward. North Carolina Courage, led by Sean Nahas. What do we need to know about the Courage?
I think they got to be one of the most intriguing teams in the league this season. They add Jaden Shaw. It's obviously a massive headline. I think a lot of ball knowers on WOSO social media talked about exercising the option to make Manaka Matsukobo's loan permanent in the offseason. She's a blossoming star at 20 years old. She scored a goal to seal the 2023 Challenge Cup final back when it was a tournament and was named MVP of that match. She was a trusted sub in all 3 matches of the She Believes Cup. I just think with Sean Nahas, with the defensive identity, they kind of slow you down. They play that possessive style of football is a little bit of an outlier in our league.
Yep.
And the way they play, they just grind you down. Like Ryan Williams, Kaylee Kurtz back there on the defensive back line, they just make you work for everything always, whether you're chasing the ball or whether they're taking the ball from you. They're hard to count out, and I'm just really excited to see how Shaw looks in that lineup.
Oh my God, 100%. Yeah, I mean, I'm really interested to see if Jaden Shaw can essentially become the face of that franchise from every facet. Because I think this is your traditional, it's almost like the early 2010s Memphis Grizzlies, like a bunch of good players, but more importantly, like a DNA, character traits and like something that everybody slots into. That team never got an injection of a young superstar, a young budding superstar into it to kind of see where the ceiling was. John Morant comes a little bit later, but if Jaden Shaw can really kind of like grab that spot, really cement herself as like an NWSL first 11 kind of player, an MVP candidate type of player, which I think probably is her ceiling, that really changes the trajectory for this team. Because if you look at what they did last year, third fewest goals allowed with 28, but they only scored 34, which was good for sixth in the league. If they can kind of hold defensively and maybe add 5-10 goals to that mix, with Jaden Shaw contributing, maybe from a goal standpoint and an assist standpoint, that could really be a game changer. Hannah Bedford also added to the mix to kind of see, like how the chemistry, the interplay can happen from there. So they did a good job adding attacking talent. Now it's going to be up to Nahas to figure out how to best extract, as much as he can, as much productivity as he can from those new signings.
Yeah, very excited to see it. I will say, I think they're a playoff team. I think they'll probably have to play an away match, but there's no reason to really believe this team doesn't make the playoffs.
Yeah, I like that. And I think I'm a little bit probably higher on them. I think Jaden Shaw, once you shake off that San Diego Wave funk from off you,
sure,
kind of join this team, maybe that rejuvenates a player like Shaw. I had them fourth in my rankings. So I've got them top 4, home playoff game. I don't think that they're necessarily a true contender, but I think they'll be hanging around, and they'll earn. They can definitely earn that first home playoff match, and then from there we'll be interested to see what happens.
Okay, so we've named your top 4 already, but we have not named your top 5.
No, not my top 5.
Okay, so we've got my top 5. You've been kind of alluding to where you have your rankings. So I have.
So you have the Courage 5. Do you have the Courage 5?
I have the Courage 5, yes.
Okay. So we went through your 5. Where'd you have KC? 3?
I have KC at 4.
Ooh, so you have Bay 3?
I have Bay FC 3. Let's fucking cook. I'm all in. That's how perturbed I was by my cowardice last season.
Oh, I love it. Awesome. Well, my first Bay FC press conference, I'll make sure to let them know that big expectations coming into the year for you guys.
Damn right.
Heels of your top 3 prediction. I love it. All right, let's shift gears. This is a fun team. We'll see where we have them placed. The Houston Dash, led by Fabrice Gautrat, or as he's known here in Central Florida, Mr. Morgan Gautrat.
Correct.
They bring back Diana Ordonez. We're going to see what Gautrat is going to be able to do leading this squad. But this is an attack that could feature Messiah Bright, Diana Ordonez, Yasmin Ryan. You add 34-year-old Swiss attacker Ramona Bachmann to the list, who comes over from PSG. I think, attack-wise could be interesting. And I think we're so used to, like, Houston's the kind of team where I don't know what the vibes are like, but I have good, positive, warm emotions toward Houston. And they've just been trudging through the mud for the last couple seasons that I think even just like a big step up, getting into the top 9, top 10 of the league, hanging around the outskirts of the playoff, conversation, I think would represent like a great step up. And that's even before you consider, well, what if Yasmin Ryan just comes out and explodes, and just looks like, for long stretches, the most dangerous offensive player on the pitch for either side, which can definitely happen. So I have this team. Well, let me put a pin in it. I want to hear where you have this team.
Yeah, I mean, you raise a great point. Obviously, the additions are important. I know we said it when the move was made. I just want to see Messiah Bright play consistent minutes at number 9. Let's just see what she has out there, because she's had some real flashes for your Orlando Pride. I don't think she got nearly enough time at Angel City. Obviously, tough to play her at number 9 when you have the legend Sydney Leroux, who remains just an A-plus player when it comes to like timing her runs and getting into dangerous areas. They lose Tarsiane to Lyon, and I do want to shout out, a very necessary shout out, 36-year-old Japanese forward Yuki Nagasato announced her retirement on March 3rd, 2025. She is second all-time in goals for Japan with 58. Tell me if this is a pretty good 4-year run. 2011 World Cup winner, 2012 Olympic silver medal, 2014 Asian Cup winner, 2015 World Cup second place medal. Pretty good 4 years for Yuki Nagasato. Shout out to the legend. Happy retirement.
Congrats to the legend. Absolutely.
No
Prediction-wise, where do you have this team?
I think you're right. We're going to need to see Yasmin Ryan goals. We're going to need to see Messiah Bright goals. I think pulling themselves up from the cellar of the league is going to be worth celebrating. I think it's going to be tough sledding, though, because you got a lot of really good teams in this league. I think they're going to be in that bubble-ish type area. I had them at 11, and I don't necessarily feel great about it because I think they could move up, but that's why I have them as a bubble team.
I think they call that synergy in the business world. I also have them at 11.
No way.
So
all right.
We'll see where they're at. Firmly on the bubble with regard to my rankings. This feels like a team. Houston's like a big market in the U.S. for sure.
Oh, yeah.
No state taxes in Texas. This feels like a team where they can make a big signing or two. You talked about the abolition of the draft. Now they're going to have to sort of like switch gears a little bit. This isn't like a small market that's going to struggle to kind of like attract players to a big city. I think this is a team that could make a splash, I think, in an upcoming window and really change their trajectory. And maybe if they're close, who knows, that can maybe motivate them to try to make a push for one of those playoff spots.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. The one thing that I do wonder if we have to watch out for in a state like Texas, does that advantage get kind of hacked off at the knees a little bit just because of Texas's record of, frankly, poor human rights record, bodily autonomy, medical freedoms, things like that. I think it's something we should watch out for in this league, but Houston is cool. It is a nice place to live. I don't think you're off base seeing it as a free agent destination.
Yeah, great point. Definitely something to track. Funny that we both had them at 11. Let's shift gears to the Utah Royals, led by Amy Rodriguez. This is your beat. What do we need to, this is an exciting squad, so I'm excited to have this conversation. What do we need to know about Utah?
I know on the calendar it's not, but for Utah in 2025, leap year is what we're looking for here. Ali Sentnor showed her explosive talent in the She Believes Cup. I think she showed it multiple times during her rookie season. Mina Tanaka came over to the Utah Royals on July 5th last year. What's she going to look like with a full camp? A week later, last year, on July 12th, 34-year-old Claudia Zarnoja from Real Madrid came over. Crafty veteran midfielder. What is she going to get with a full camp on this roster? What is that going to look like? So I think this team is super exciting. You cursed me when I drafted them during our NWSL team draft. I had a feeling that was because you're probably fairly optimistic on them as well. The attack's going to look good. I think Mandy McGlynn showed great promise as a keeper. Obviously, Emma Hayes wanted to see more of her on the international roster. Mm-hmm. I think this team takes a big jump in the table this year. I'm curious where you're landing on it.
Well, I've got them jumping all the way up to 5, my friend. This is my fifth-ranked team. Utah Royals.
Look at you. Go.
I just love their attack. So you mentioned Sentnor, Tanaka. Chloe Lacasse led them in goals last season. 4 goals, 9 matches played. Paige Monahan, is obviously dangerous. Anna Tejada, Ana Maria Guzman, the 2 Annas in defense. Love that pairing. And I don't know, they have like it's like a flair combined with like a nasty streak. When I watch them play, like that combination of flair and nastiness in this league can carry you very far. But the leap year, the potential Sentnor leap year is genius. Great call by you, because if we do see that with this team, the way that they played, and assume some of the maturities, or Nosa, I thought had a really good season when she came over last year. Tanaka on absolute fire for Japan. She believes. I think she'll be able to carry some of that momentum in. This is just a dangerous team. And I think every year you see a team bubble up, really move up the ranks ahead of schedule. I think this year that team is Utah.
I love it. I love the bold pick with them at 5. I have them firmly in the playoffs. I had them at 6th in the table.
Ooh,
I
let's
don't think
go.
it's going to be. I don't think they're going to be sweating it. I think they'll be in the playoffs. And here's a bonus prediction. We'll obviously get to some of the awards later. I think Ali Santnor challenges for the league MVP.
Wow.
Let's
That's a
go.
big prediction. I love that.
We're
All right,
taking
let's
big
go.
swings today, Bubba.
Let's go. We're on record. I love it. Okay, let's shift gears. Racing Louisville, 7th best goal differential last season. Better than Bay FC, better than Chicago. They co-led the league in draws with 7. That's probably what sunk their playoff hopes. They were solid at home last year, awful on the road. Definitely talent on that squad, though. Savannah DeMello, Taylor Flint, Angela Baron, 21-year-old defender from Colombia, Captain Aaron Wright, 31-year-old defender, 1,800 plus minutes last season for Wright. I like the collection of talent on this team. Sort of feels like a team that has a lot of players that can hit B plus, A minus, and on the wrong day, they can beat you.
I think that's totally fair. And when we did our team draft a week or two ago, I made a grievous error in saying that and just having in general Racing Louisville as my last team on my big board to draft. And you have educated me, my good man. I was a fool. As I was doing preparation for this episode, I was like, what exactly does Dino see here? And I think I see what you're seeing, is that they're super competitive. They're able to score. I'm very interested to see what Ari Borges looks like this year. She only played in 14 matches and played 826 minutes last year. She had an injury that required a knee scope. If she can play significantly more minutes this year, I think that's going to obviously be a huge boost for them. And just, I gotta just apologize to my fellow Seattleites for me to disrespect Seattle Reign legend Bev Yanez, their head coach, 2-time Shield winner with Seattle Reign FC, and 3-time winner overall. She won one with the Western New York Flash. They always appear to be well coached. So I was a damn fool, I say, for having them last on my big board and allowing you to snatch them up in the draft.
Had to do it. Was happy to take that pick. Emma Sears, who we've watched quite a bit, kind of blossomed for your U.S. Women's national team. I think another player you got to keep an eye on. Uchenna Kanu last year was kind of leading the lead in goals, I think, for the first, few weeks of the season. She, an absolute tear to start the year. I've got this team firmly on the bubble, I'd say. I've got them 9th on my rankings, so just outside the playoffs. But another team that, if they get top performances, and probably realistically, they need to stay healthy. If they stay healthy, that much talent, this is absolutely a top 8 team in this league.
I think you're right. I think you talked me into it enough to where I have them 8th in the table when I sat down and really looked at it. And I totally agree. Uchenna Kanu had that injury. I mean, she scored 5 times in 12 matches. She was back to fully training in January. I think if they stay healthy, obviously the executive, the shadow executive producer would scold me if I didn't bring up Taylor Flint, aka Tall Girl Bias.
TGB.
She could head in some goals, make sure that the set pieces are dangerous. I got them making the playoffs, number 8. And, I don't think the Shield winner is going to exactly be psyched to play them, although they'll still go in confident.
I love that. I love that you went from you had them 14th, bumped them all the way up to 8th. A little research, a little draft envy. But yeah, that's what the show's about, man. Just getting on the same page, putting our heads together. And I think every time we do that, it works out well in our favor, I'll say. So I'm definitely happy that you got them at 8. I've got them at 9. So we're roughly on the same page there. Shifting gears, this team's taking some hits. The Portland Thorns, led by Mike Norris. Yeah. What do we need to know about Portland?
All right, let me just make sure that I get it right, because I oscillate on her age. Okay, so I do have that correct. So Sophie Wilson is 25 years old. She is one of the faces of the U.S. Women's National Team. She is one of the faces of the NWSL. She's a 2-time MVP of the league. And she announced her pregnancy on social media. So congratulations to her and her husband. This is obviously, obviously congratulations on the nuptials as well, but I've already congratulated her for that. Yes. So, this is a happy time. She recently re-signed. I think it was last year where she extended her contract with the Thorns. She's getting good sponsorship money. She's featured in Nike commercials. I think this makes sense for her and her family to kind of take this step, and we obviously wish her well in that. Portland Thorns, you might be in trouble this year, because she's obviously not going to play for you, and I don't know where the goals are going to come from.
I really don't know either. So I had Portland in my bottom 3. Just full transparency here. I had them
Let's
at
go.
12. I don't see the scoring. We've talked about the vibes. You lose Sinclair, you lose Wilson. Still a lot of talented players, but yeah, the goals have to come from somewhere.
Yep.
And you don't want to be the team that's backsliding even a little bit when so many of these other teams are adding players or they had a young profile and now these players are maturing. You don't want to be the team losing talent going backwards.
Right.
And I think that's exactly where Portland finds themselves.
Sophie Wilson and Christine Sinclair accounted for 16 goals and 7 assists in 2024. Now, look, they traded Janine Becky and her 3 goals and 2 assists for Rylan Turner. But that is a swap of a 29-year-old Becky for a 21-year-old Turner. So I think I think I get that. Like if you think kind of about the timeline,
Yep.
They still have Sam Coffey, they still have Olivia Moultrie, Hina Sujita, Jessie Fleming, Nicole Payne, and Morgan Weaver. Those are good players. But again, who's scoring goals in that lineup? I mean, I think with Fleming, she can score and create goals for you, but we've talked about it. Sometimes there are 65-minute stretches in a match where you're just like, I know Fleming is better than this. I should see her on the ball more.
Yep.
And so with Fleming being, a fairly fully developed player, 27 years old, pretty much entering in her prime, maybe there's still some ceiling to reach up toward. I think it's going to be a rough one. You have them in 12th. I also have them in the bottom 3, but I got them at the bottom of the bottom 3.
Ooh.
I have them finishing 14th in the table. And I don't think it's an indictment of the players they have. I just don't think they're going to be able to score enough.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think they had probably still too much talent for me to have them that low, but I think, we both got them bottom 3, so more alignment there. Let's shift gears, though, to another team in my bottom 3, Chicago Stars FC, led by Lauren Donaldson. So they add Michaela Johnson, U.S. Women's National Team under-17 attacker. She joins Chicago on a 3-year deal through 2027. She just turned 17 in January. Like an extremely young player. Chicago's also going to try to work in Maitana Lopez, Spanish midfielder who last played for Gotham. Prior to that, multiple stops in Liga F, a couple appearances for the Spanish national team as well. Outside of that, it's Mel Swanson, maybe kind of fingers crossed, Sam Staub. How can we put something together here? But I don't know. This team to me feels like a bottom 3 team. I'm interested to hear. I know you're a big Lauren Donaldson guy, where you've got the Chicago team.
I think Donaldson will be able to put together a good defense with duct tape and whatever, he needs to. Not to belittle the players' performance in their good finish last year. I mean, this thing, how much does it hinge on Mallory Swanson's availability? At this point, I just haven't seen a ton of reporting. When you go to the team's website and you see the player photos, it's all new photos, and then they're using Mal Swanson's photo from last year. So you just hope that everything's okay, on the home front, personal wise, health wise. So you just fingers crossed for good things there. I think Sam Staub, she wasn't at NWSL Media Day strictly to correct the signage there that has still had Chicago Red Stars, and she crossed it out and put Chicago Stars FC. She also talked to Jason Anderson of Pro Soccer Wire, who reported from Media Day that Staub said she was, quote, feeling really good, and additional quote, not 100% yet, but I'm getting there, end quote. So if Staub is making her way back from that injury, I think the defense should look okay. I'm interested in seeing 20-year-old Japanese midfielder Manaka Hayashi, who signed with the club in January. She was the captain of that U20 Japanese squad that took second place in the 2024 U20 World Cup. Again, I think it's going to be tough for them, but I think the defensive identity, and I know a lot of this depends on Swanson's availability, but I'm going to have them in that bubble range. I put them at 10th in the table.
Interesting. I mean, I love Sam Staub, one of my favorite players in the league. When she's right, she's really, really good. But this is a team that was 31 goals for last year, 38 allowed, -7 goal differential heading into the playoffs. Kind of snuck in there. It didn't offer very much. Obviously, they have taken on Orlando to open up the proceedings. Tough to fault them from there. But I think similar vibes to Portland. A lot of these teams have gotten better. I'm not sure Chicago's gotten better.
Yeah.
And if you haven't gotten better, or if you've gotten slightly worse, you're in real danger of kind of getting lapped by the field, because you've got a lot of talent coming in, a lot of talent kind of maturing, a lot of big pieces, Jaden Shaw, Yasmin Ryan kind of moving around, sort of shifting the balance. So for a team like Chicago not to really make any huge moves during the offseason, I think it kind of puts them in a tough spot, and they could be. I don't know. It's weird because there's no draft now, so it's like it's not like you're
Right.
tanking for Wembanyama or whoever. Like you really have to kind of come out and like really show out. So yeah, unfortunately I've got Chicago in my bottom three. Where did I have them exactly? I had them 13th, second from the bottom. So I
Okay.
think it'll be a rough go for the Stars.
And they had that amazing turnaround in 2023. They were dead fucking last in the table, and they were able to crawl up to the playoffs. So it could be, if your prediction plays out, they could be looking like a yo-yo club here. It'll be interesting to watch, no doubt.
Yep. Yeah, we'll keep an eye on that. All right. Gotham FC, led by Juan Carlos Amoros. What do you got on Gotham?
Still a lot of good players. I mean, similar kind of the way we're talking about Portland. Okay. On Katrenberger, Bruninia, Emily Sonnet, Tierna Davidson, Manny Freeman, Jess Carter, Jalen Howell, Rose Lavelle, Ella Stevens, Esther Gonzalez, Gabby Portillo, Jessica Silva, at least for now, and Midge Purse. The return of Midge. I cannot wait. I hope she comes back to play as soon as she is able to. I hope she is fully healthy as soon as possible. I don't think it's going to be an easy season for them by any stretch, but there's just a lot of talent on the bats. I think that the midfield, they might have to keep a little bit of a tight rotation in these dog days of summer. That can always be a little difficult here in the United States, but I think they're in the playoffs. I think they might have to sweat it out a little bit. I think it might look dicey at sometimes, but Rose Lavelle had a really healthy season last year, and I hope to see her duplicate that. And if that happens, I think they're firmly in the playoffs.
Yeah, I like that. I had them 6th on my predictions, and sort of the same. I think it's some weeks are going to look like a top 4 team, other weeks are going to look like a bubble team, or maybe even worse. The talent is undeniable. It's obviously there, but they lost 3 of their top 4 field players in terms of minutes last season: Yasmin Ryan, Delaney Shien, Jenna Neiswanger.
Yeah.
How long is the chemistry going to take hold? Because that's a lot of moving pieces to kind of make happen. And those were players that played a lot of minutes and were very involved in what Gotham was doing. I'm curious about their depth. I'm curious about maybe their ability to stay healthy, maybe with some of those older players.
Sure.
You mentioned Rose Lavelle, like another great example. If Rose is healthy, that's a player that can have a tremendous season and really kind of like lead this team. If we get the opposite, knock on wood, that could kind of like throw a monkey wrench in this team and, make a midfield that's, has some shaky potential, maybe get a little shakier. You can throw Lynn Biondolo in the mix with one of the high profile players that moved on. I'm still a little curious about the vibes at Gotham behind closed doors, because that's a lot of talent to just kind of like walk out the door.
Yeah.
And then I do have that sneaky feeling some of the players you mentioned, Gabby Portillo, Jessica Silva, who else am I missing? The players that came in internationally, Jess Carter last year.
Yeah.
When you've got to go outside the league and get players, I do feel like that could be a signal that the word is maybe out, internally within players in the league that, hey, this is maybe a place that's not super player friendly. And then that would require a team to kind of have to go to Europe, go to South America and kind of like grab talent from there. Shout out to them. They got an incredible roster of talent. But yeah, I think I landed on them at 6 just because I think they'll at some points they're going to look much better. At some points they're going to look worse.
I think that's totally fair. Let me hit you with the bonus prediction. I am going to predict that Lavelle plays 20 or more matches in the regular season. Her previous career high was last year with 21 matches played in league play, and 8 goals plus assists.
Nice.
My prediction this year, I think they're going to need her to do it. I think she'll play more than 20 matches again, and I think she'll get some combination of 10 goals and assists in league play, whether it's 7 goals, 4 assists, something like that. Actually, I don't think she's ever had more than 1 assist in league play in her career, if I am conjuring my memory of her FB ref page. So maybe let's call it 9 goals, 2 assists. She sets a record for herself in league play with assists. But, I mean, you know how I feel about Rose Lavelle. She's one of my absolute favorite players in USA history. And I'm looking for another big year from her.
Love it. Would love to see that happen. All right. Where'd you have Gotham?
I had them 7th. So
okay.
So we haven't, I don't think I gave the update on mine, but yeah, I had the Courage 5th, the Utah Royals 6th, Gotham 7th.
Courage, Utah, Gotham. That's funny. Yeah, I had Utah. I had Courage, Utah, Gotham 4, 5, 6. and then I had
Okay, there we
BFC
go.
10th. That was my big. That's where we differ. Hope they don't hear this. Kind of like a slow down my press intro approval. All right, let's shift gears. Angel City FC, led by this manager situation at Angel City is a trip. I'm not sure how much you've been following this. December 9th, they part ways with Becky Tweed. And then in that announcement, they name Larry Earnshaw as the interim head coach as they search for a new head coach in a search that they, quote, said will commence immediately. March 6th, almost 3 months later, they named Sam Lady the interim, but an interim that was brought in from the offseason that was not the old interim. Very weird. Jeff Kassoff mentioned that Angel City sporting director Mark Parsons says he expects a full-time head coach to arrive in June. Very weird. I'm
weird
not sure,
timing, bro.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he realized that the league starts in March. But either way, maybe, I don't know, he's got a good buddy that's on vacation or something or offline. A weird situation. Sam Lady leading this team. Lady last coach in the league, leading the Houston Dash 2023 to a 10th place finish, 6 wins, 8 draws, 10 losses. So I'm not really sure what to expect from a player standpoint. The Thompson sisters, they extend through 2028. They bring in Julie DeFore, who played for Perry FC, 13 goals in 31 matches played for them. Also has some experience with France's senior national team.
Yep.
And they trade for Savvy King from Bay FC, the second pick in the 2023 NWSL draft. Whatever draft Centenor and Bethune were in.
Last year's draft,
2024 draft. So Savvy King obviously drafted second ahead of Corey Bethune. So obviously the pedigree's there. Maybe bought low from Bay FC for a player with real defensive chops. I mean, weirdly, I had Angel City kind of sneaking into the playoffs as the 8th seed, and that's really on the strength of like the vibes, the Thompson sisters, and maybe, just kind of putting it together, maybe finding a coach, maybe whoever they were to find in June is really good. Keep an eye on that. But I don't know. I'm loosely interested in this Angel City team. I think they've got a shot at kind of sinking into the playoffs.
Well, there has been a coach linked to that job who recently became available, and that would be former Manchester City Football Club manager Gareth Taylor. And it seems like all the signs are pointing toward him taking that job in LA. And to that, I say, have a good time, buddy. Enjoy yourself. Thanks for, all the stuff that you did. I'm looking forward to the future of Manchester City Football Club. No shots. It's fine.
Do you know does Taylor have something with regard to Jude, or are those related, or does he have like a non-compete or something?
I think he had something until June, and I don't think he any longer has that until June. So I would not be surprised if he is named the coach. He might even be named manager of Angel City by the time this podcast publishes. We will have to see. And if that's the case, more power to you, Gareth. I'm with you. I think I didn't put them in the playoffs, but I think they're a bubble team. The Thompson sisters are due for a jump. I think they have showed it. Alyssa Thompson was on fire at the end of last season. I love Giselle Thompson's game. We've talked about it in our U.S. Women's National Team coverage. Love her toughness. Julie DeFore is a really good pickup. I don't even think it's a sneaky good pickup. I think she's just a good player who should be a good NWSL player also. I had them 9th, so I won't be shocked if they make the playoffs. I think they're firmly in that bubble. I think they'll compete for it. And we probably have, just judging on her conditioning, I think we probably still have 2, maybe 3 good Sydney LaRue years left too. And she's going to want to try to maximize it. And people are galvanized around her. There's that awesome video of June Endo running for the first time since her ACL injury. So hopefully Endo is able to come back. She'll be an instant adrenaline boost in that midfield. So I think they'll be a good team. We'll just have to see what the management situation looks like and then kind of how they're able to put it together.
Yeah, something that we'll definitely track. Yeah, and then going from your former WSL manager to my former WSL manager. How about the San Diego Wave, led by Jonas Eidevall?
Look, do I like any of the vibes coming from this team? I do not. But do they still have Kaylin Sheridan, Maria Sanchez, and Delphine Cascarino? Yes, they do. They added Adriana Leon and Kenza Dali from Aston Villa this offseason. They added Perla Maroney in August of last year. She appeared in 6 matches. It'll be interesting to see what she looks like with a full camp. I think some of the vets could help with the culture and leadership, but also, if your if there are a lot of questions about your front office and about your manager and kind of how they handle interpersonal stuff, then I think there's really only so much the vets can really drag out of the team. And your guy, Adewale, I won't even let me take that back. I know he's not your guy, buddy. I wouldn't disrespect you like that. But Adewale didn't exactly bathe himself in glory on his way out of Arsenal. So I'm interested to see what he'll do with this opportunity, but I don't have high hopes. I think they're in the bottom 3.
Yeah, I had them in the cellar. I had them at 14.
There you go.
So this is a team that finished 10th last season, 7 points outside the playoff mix, that lost one generational talent in Naomi Girma and one player with generational potential in Jaden Shaw. Tough to replace that much talent, even with the additions. I mean, I think it really, I don't know. I'm a super vibes person, and usually, like, definitely when there's smoke, there's fire. Jonas Eidevall, not the person that
yeah, it's a choice.
The culture setter that I would want to kind of like really kind of set things right. I just think that the odds are stacked way against the San Diego side, even with their talented players. Just too much of a hodgepodge, and I think major red flags when you think about those uber talented players that just kind of decided that it was time for them to move on.
Yeah, I mean, I love it. I was so curious when you said a generational player. I was like, okay, he's talking about Girma, and I wanted to know where you were going to go with it. And then you talked about the generational player potential of Jaden Shaw. They lost Alex Morgan, who is one of the most accomplished and famous players in the history of the sport in this country. And people have said a lot about how she looked on the downslope of her career. But as far as a person who people looked toward in that dressing room, you have to think that she was the player that people look toward. So all your points about the culture, whether Adewale's the guy, I think all those questions loom large. And yeah, I had them 13th. You had them 14th. We're back on the corporate synergy train. I think we have similar thoughts on this. I'll give you a bonus prediction. Delphine Cascarino asks to leave the club in the summer window is my prediction.
I can definitely see that.
Why would you stay?
Where'd she go, though?
I mean, it's not a long flight up to Seattle, Washington. She used to play for Lyon. Lyon, Olympic Lyonnais, used to own Seattle Reign.
There.
You know what I mean? So, like, come on now. We haven't had a great winger for 2 years since we had Megan Rapinoe. I feel like Delphine will fit right in up here.
I love that. Let's make that happen. Come on, Delphine. I mean, don't judge a country by its cover. Seattle's a great place to live. West Coast, you stay in the same time zone. Mm-hmm. Love the prediction. All right, so we've got San Diego locked in, bottom of the table. Let's make some predictions for some postseason awards, and then I want to do a little bracketology, just the final four, how you see it. But let's start with the end of season awards here. How do you want to do this? You want to go top to bottom to top?
So I feel like most people, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to move this window from my side monitor to the main monitor. And I feel like most people just listen to this program anyway, even if they're quote unquote viewing on YouTube. I don't know if I look like a goofy asshole when I'm looking to my side monitor. So, you chime in the comments. You won't hurt my feelings if I do, in fact, look ridiculous when I'm looking at the side monitor. But I digress. Let's go top to bottom. Let's do that. Let's do the headlines.
Let's go.
I can't remember if we covered it, or did you reveal who is your NWSL Shield winner?
Okay, so you want to start with the Shield? I've got the Spirit.
Oh, the Spirit winning. You son of a bitch! Look at you. That 2 for 2. I think the Washington Spirit are going to win the Shield. I think they're on a mission this regular season for sure.
Yeah. So they're my Shield winners, and then let's go. Yeah. Speaking of the Spirit, MVP, my 2025 NWSL MVP. I've got Croy Bethune.
Wow! Look at you. Okay. I mean, all right. Look, we haven't done it in a while. We haven't done a show long enough to do this in a while.
Wait, time out. I'm gonna take part in this because there's some fun happenings here.
Perfect.
Quick 20-second timeout, and we're back. I'm ready. I didn't know sometimes you gotta call a quick 20 and run to the fridge.
Outstanding. Good work by you.
As you were.
All right. So it hasn't happened in months, it feels like, but it is absolutely an occasion for a 2-beer show.
Sounds like a 4-beer-ski show if we're accumulating, going cumulative with the stats.
That is true, and
Cheers.
Cheers to you. And I'm glad you mentioned it because when you're and anybody who hasn't seen, we have an additional bonus episode where Dino interviewed 4 members from the double winner Orlando Pride. I meant to mention that because you did that with 4 double winners, I think that's an octuple winning podcast episode that you did.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I'm going to run out of room for all these trophies. My MVP, as mentioned, Croy Bethune.
Look at you.
Very curious to see who you've got as your MVP.
I mean, well, first of all, let me just say, I love the Croy Bethune pick so much. I mean, she won Rookie of the Year in like 56 or maybe like 65% of the season played or whatever it landed at. So yeah, even if she misses the first couple of matches of this season, she could still win the MVP. Absolutely love that. So last year, the NWSL MVP trophy made its way to Malawi with Temwa Chewinga, much deserved. I know we had talked about some other candidates for the award, but I think this is the year that the NWSL MVP trophy makes its way to Zambia, and that is because Rachel Kundanaji from Bay FC is going to win NWSL MVP as she leads Bay FC to 3rd in the table against many people's expectations, but not this guy's.
Oh my God. Let's go. Let's go. What a choice. Oh my God. I love that.
Can I tell you, I've been sitting on this. When we talked to our guy, Mike Watts, on our way too early NWSL preview, and I named several of the elite players, I named Kundanaji in that bunch when I talked about Benda, Chewinga, and, Watts was just like, yeah, I don't know if I put Kundanaji in that class, but et cetera, and kind of made his point. There was a piece of my mind that was like, no, don't give away my Kundanaji is going to challenge for the MVP take right here. I've been sitting on this. I loved her aggressiveness at the end of last season. We talked about it toward the end of the year. She was like willing to take on every defender in the league. At the same time, she did not give a shit. Her confidence looked phenomenal. I want to see her unlock, some of that passing, like I mentioned earlier. I think she's going to do it.
Unbelievable. What a pick. I mean,
thank you.
You're swinging way all the way back in the direction
Why not?
of BFC, which I love, as a future, BFC beat reporter. Let's fucking go. I love it. Great pick. I'm a little bit jealous.
Bethune is a phenomenal
Let's go to Golden Boot. Why don't you go first here? We'll go snake draft.
Okay. We'll keep it with the Copper Queens. I'm not going to get too crazy here. I think Kundanaji is going to win the MVP, but I think it's going
to... Your Copper Queens, your Zambia redirect. I was not expecting Kundanaji.
I thought you...
Tremendous, perfectly done by you.
I thought you would enjoy that. I was hoping you would enjoy that. But, obviously, you and I watching the 2023, bonding over the 2023 World Cup together, you put me on the Copper Queens. You knew what time it was. It was very prescient by you. But I will say, I think it's going to be one of those cases where Benda wins the Golden Boot for your Orlando Pride, but because of the kind of surprising nature of what I think Bay FC is going to do this year, that's why I think Kundanaji will take the MVP and her teammate Benda will win that Golden Boot.
What a moment, potentially for Zambia if that's how it shakes out. Love the pick. Obviously, Benda, one of my favorite players in the league. Could absolutely see her going on a tear. I mean, in the Challenge Cup, though, they definitely made it difficult on Banda, kind of shading more defense her way. So I think there's definitely going to be an adjustment for Seb Hines to make to try to rebalance the field and give Banda a little bit more space on her own when, defenses are a little bit more prepared for what she's able to do. My Golden Boot winner was one of the players that you mentioned that will be knocking on the door for MVP. Give me Ali Sentinel.
Let's go.
I think she's going to get a ton of opportunities in Utah. I think she's going to let him rip. We saw her do it for the national team. We saw her do it last year also. And shout out to, oh my God, I'm blanking on who dropped this comment in the YouTubes, but it was definitely one of the great friends of the show who talked about Ali's willingness to kind of defend. And I think that level of hunger really bodes well for a player that's going to kind of try to put goals on the board for that team. They've obviously got Mina Tanaka, but Tanaka's a great facilitator as well.
Yep.
And I think I can see a big Ali Sentinor goal season.
I love it. No, I was right there with you. She was on my short list of who I might be able to take to kind of surprise you, but also just kind of have some fun with this. Because I will say during this whole exercise, picking 1 through 14, picking these award winners, I was just like, I don't know, man. There are so many great options. Why not have some fun with this too? And it's not a cop-out. I stand by these takes, but if I'm wrong, I'm not exactly going to be ashamed of myself.
Yeah, no, for sure. These are definitely my picks.
Yeah.
Even though, well, I mean, I like to kind of go a little bit outside. I hate when people, even though I did this for one of my predictions, I hate when people just sort of like run it back from last year. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, I can see the Celtics Mavs again in the fight. It's just like so lame when that happens.
Right.
So let's go to midfielder of the year, where I'm going to take the only player who, in an interview with one of the members from the Into the Channel podcast, has said the key to victory is just going out there and thugging it out. Give me Hal Hirschfeld. I think, obviously Corey Bethune sort of in that mix, but I think Bethune might be pushed up a little bit, won't necessarily play all the minutes as a traditional midfielder. And I think Hirschfeld has the ability to kind of like be a more prototypical midfielder, have like a elite midfielder season. So that is my midfielder of the year. Future ITC Hall of Famer Hal Hirschfeld.
No doubt. I mean, the synergy is synergying right now. I mean, I had said it. I said it before when they named the She Believes Cup roster that I didn't like that Hirschfeld was not on the roster and she should have been on the roster. I think that she's going to play a big part in Spirit winning the Shield. And I think like her defensive presence is going to make a real impact. And I think people's eyes are going to be open to that. I had Hal Hirschfeld as my midfielder of the year as well. And you know what? I would be lying if the thug it out comment to you did not play a significant role in that.
I mean,
how do you not love that?
Midfielder of the decade after that.
Come on. Let's go.
Love that. Wow. Unbelievable. Hal Hirschfeld, the unanimous preseason midfielder of the year.
Let's go.
According to the Internet Into the Channel podcast. Quote that, to quote the great Tara McKeown. All right. Snake draft, defender of the year. Who you got?
Give me Ryan Williams from the North Carolina Courage. Now, I had mentioned her earlier. I know Kaylee Kurtz was a finalist for the award. Obviously, Emily Sams, Kylie Nadaner were also finalists last year. I just want to reiterate, last year, Ryan Williams, 55 tackles won, first in the league, 54 interceptions, second in the league, fourth in dribblers tackle, first in the league in touches with 2,463, fourth in the league in progressive carrying distance, seventh in the league in crosses into the penalty area. She was doing a lot of shit last year, and she is an excellent player, key to that defense. I hope she gets the credit she deserves, so I'm picking her for Defender of the Year.
Love it. Yeah, no argument there. Excellent player, excellent defender. For my Defender of the Year, I'm going to do what I lamented just a couple minutes ago. I'm going to go back to back.
That's good.
Emily Sams. Obviously, I had a chance to talk to Emily earlier this week, as you mentioned. Go check out that Orlando Pride mini episode. I just feel like she's just, always a great backstop. When there's an attack that's dangerous, she's always in the right place. She loves to mix it up. Super smart. In her prime, I don't think that there's any reason why we would see a drop off. And I think there's a definite non-zero chance that we see an even better Emily Sams this season.
Yeah, I mean, hard to argue with that pick. I think Naomi Girma, before Sams won it last year, I want to say Girma won the last two before. So we've seen players go back-to-back in the past. You can't argue with it. You made the point early last year. You were way ahead of other pundits. Best defender on the best defense. Super live that just happens again this year.
Yeah, no doubt. And then staying in Orlando, goalkeeper of the year, I think it's Anna Morehouse. I mean, I think I took a long look at Mandy McGlynn in Utah, but I think what gave Morehouse the nod is I think defensively in Orlando, there's just going to be a lot. Clean sheets are going to be super live in Orlando all season. They just are nasty from a defensive standpoint. Obviously, Spirit scores, off that kind of like flimsy foul and marvelous free kick from Lacey Santos.
Right.
And that's how they got on the board in that one. And then were able to coast to the PKs. But I think there's definitely a world where the Spirit gets shut out in that Challenge Cup match. They didn't look particularly dangerous. Less shots in that one, less shots on target, less XG. And I think Morehouse is going to, independent of being a really good keeper and a really smart player with a lot of range and good shot stopping ability, I think she's going to benefit big time from how nasty that Orlando defense is.
Yeah. Great call. I mean, it's obviously super live on the board. I don't know if there are Vegas odds on this. I wouldn't be surprised if she is the favorite. I will also pick a goalkeeper from that NWSL Challenge Cup match, but give me Aubrey Kingsbury from the Washington Spirit. Now,
I like it.
The 33-year-old out of Cincinnati, Ohio, has won this award twice in the past, once in 2019, once in 2021. She also won MVP of the 2021 NWSL Championship match. Now, am I a prisoner of the moment from just watching her play and thinking that she played absolutely great? Sure I am. That's fine. But I think if the Spirit win the Shield, yes, they have a ton of great field players. And we've talked about, like with Katakoi or other players, other goalkeepers who might get lost when you play on a great team like that. Kingsbury has the ability to make great saves, great athletic saves, even at 33 years old. And I'm going to place my take chip on her doing it again, getting her third goalkeeper of the year in historic fashion.
I like that because, I mean, the Spirit and the Pride are different teams with different vibes for sure.
Yeah.
The Pride are, like just lockdown, physical, they're just going to make it impossible to score. I think on the flip side, the Spirit are going to score quite often.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to give Kingsbury a different type of comfort level, between the posts, where she'll be able to kind of like play just more instinctive and not super, like when you think about maybe like an Alyssa Nair in Chicago, you obviously know Nair's pedigree, but Chicago's always playing behind the eight ball. And I don't want to say you see the pressure kind of like build on Nair, but Nair does feel like a little bit tight and like she has to kind of save every opportunity in this match or otherwise, we're totally fucked.
Right.
I think Kingsbury's going to be able to play a little bit more free and a little bit more instinctive. And I think it's a great formula for taking home that kind of award.
I love it. Yeah, I would be very surprised if, at absolute worst, Morehouse and Kingsbury are not finalists for the award. I think it would be shocking if they weren't.
Yeah, no arguments there. I could definitely see that happening. I did not have a Rookie of the Year. Didn't get a chance to talk to our guy Chris, who usually preps us on this kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out to Chris. But I think you might have somebody in this category. You might have something to go to. So we'll hit your Rookie of the Year potentially, and then we'll go Coach of the Year, and then predict some playoff seeding scenarios.
I describe you as in multiple ways. My guy, my co-host, my pal, an influencer, a marketing genius, a wise man, an evangelizer. And one of the things that you have evangelized to me, as noted previously on this podcast, Racing Louisville. So let me just throw it out there. NWSL Rookie of the Year, Sarah Weber for Racing Louisville. Louisville signed the 21-year-old forward Sarah Weber out of the University of Nebraska. That's Big Ten country if you haven't been keeping up with that kind of thing. 43 goals and 16 assists in 78 matches for the old Cornhuskers. And let me just say, as a little bonus, Emma Sears and Kayla Fisher for Racing Louisville, the Ohio State University graduates. Is Louisville now Big Ten country? Sources say possibly.
Interesting. I think, yeah, it's definitely on brand for that part of the country. I think it definitely checks out there. It's funny to hear you mention Big Ten. When I was checking out...
was it your Cal Berkeley thing? Yes. Yeah. I was going to comment on that when you said it. I love that.
Carly Lena, who signed with BFC, who was the ACC Offensive Player of the Year for Cal Berkeley.
Sure. So why not?
It was a real shocker for your boy.
And, good old Atlantic Coast Conference team, Cal Berkeley. That's how that works.
Let's shift gears. Coach of the Year. One more to go. I'll jump in here. I mean, this is a guy that kind of blew me away with, his intellect, his locked-in nature. And this is a team that I have, finishing at the top of the rankings, taking home the Shield. A ton of awards for a bunch of their players. Give me Yona Heraldez, head coach of the Washington Spirit, as my Coach of the Year.
I think that's fair. We expect them to win the Shield. They'll compete for the double. I think that is only fair that he will be he's probably the front runner for the award.
Gotta be.
Yeah, I think that's a great call. I'm gonna zag.
It's either him or Gareth Taylor.
Sure, right. Yeah, he'll just come right into the league. I mean, maybe he's got that Charlie Weiss, as we refer to college football, where he'll come in and say he has a, decided schematic advantage because he was such a snob about coaching under Bill Belichick. He thought he was just going to run college football. I don't know if Gareth Taylor is that much of an arrogant guy, but I don't know. You hear different things following a club, but I think Heraldez definitely the front runner, I would say. I'm going to zag a little bit, and I don't know how much of a zag it is considering how we feel about this team. Amy Rodriguez for the Utah Royals. They finished 11th in the table last year. And I think both you and I, you got them finishing 5th. I got them finishing 6th. I think a lot of times when that happens, when you make that big jump, there's a possibility. I mean, you saw it with your guy Seb. Now, obviously, they won the double and were fucking invincible for the vast majority of the year. But you make a big jump in the table like that, you put yourself in a position to win that award.
Yeah, that's a great call. I mean, if this was a TBP, I think we'd be looking at those odds, those Amy Rodriguez, those A-Rod odds, and being like, all right, plus 1450. Yeah, I'll partake a little tenth of a unit on that.
Sprinkle, sure.
Sprinkle.
Yep, that's how it goes.
I love that pick. So is that your official pick, or are you going Yona?
No, 100%. I'm picking Amy Rodriguez. I think they're going to jump in the table, and I think people are going to reward her for that.
Excellent pick. Jealous of that one too. Well done by you.
Appreciate it.
All right, let's go to the bracket. Let's just do semifinals and finals. I'll go first. I've got, and I referenced this a little bit earlier, I've got Washington winning the Shield, and I've got Orlando beating them in the championship.
Okay.
I think there's something about Orlando. They can dig their heels in and then just make it impossible to score. In my conversations with people with the team, it's very clear that they understand the length of the season. They just went through the entire thing. Tons of comments about how short the offseason was. So I feel like they are playing the long game, and I think as part of that, we saw a little bit of this last year. They had a chance to finish the season undefeated, and they kind of put that off to the side, said, no, we want to win the trophies this season. We don't want to kind of risk something for ultimately like a little bit of a vanity award. Like, okay, yeah, we went undefeated. It'll be pretty historic, but they wanted those trophies bad. So I think they're going to know what it takes. I think they're going to play the long game. And I think ultimately they're going to outlast the Washington Spirit in a final rematch. I lamented that too. But in the semifinals, I think KC is also in the semifinals. And I think the Utah Royals are also one of those Final Four teams vying for the NWSL championship. So those are my Final Four. And I've got Orlando repeating as champions.
Let's go. I love it. It's a great pick. Who's going to bet against Barbara Benda, Marta, Seb Hines, Ali Watt, Angelina, Emily Sams, Nadana, Corey Dyke?
That defense.
The entire defense. Morehouse. No, it's a great pick. Okay, this is going to sound ridiculous, but as I was taking a million notes trying to figure this out, I use these little stickies sometimes. The sticky notes.
Oh, I thought you were serving me a yellow card.
It looks like it. And maybe I'll get a yellow card myself. Let me know in the comments if it's a yellow card or just a straight red for what I'm going to do here. But I'm going to do a little bit of a thing. So I have my top four: Washington Spirit winning the Shield, Orlando Pride 2, Bay FC 3, Kansas City Current 4. So I think that would mean, and I have Chalk making it through the first round of the playoffs, because I think we got Chalk last year, if I remember correctly. I think it was the top 4 seeds one. So I think that's going to happen again. And at that point, the Spirit will play the Current and the Pride will play Bay FC. They will be 1-4 versus 2-3. I have your Orlando Pride advancing to the NWSL championship once again. And I'm going to do a thing. So when I had multiple sticky notes and I was kind of jotting down like, okay, what does my 14 look like? And I had like multiple ones. And there was one that I was throwing away, and I do this I have this weird tick where I'll like fold it up, I'll fold up the sticky like a bunch of times. Like I fold it up neatly to like where the bottom edge lines up perfectly with the sticky edge. And I'm not even looking at it, and I'm folding it up. And I was just like, man, I just got a weird feeling about one of these teams, and I'm just not sure how this is going to look. And I'm not looking at it, and I fold it up and I set it down. And what would be the only team revealed on the fold other than the Kansas City Current? And I just looked at it and I said, is this a sign? Now, this is going...
Of course not.
Of course not. It's ridiculous. It's completely... I'm an asshole. But you know what? We're making predictions here, and they have a lot of good players. This is going to fly in the face, and maybe I'll regret it. This is going to fly in the face of some of my beliefs. Like, am I really going to pick a team? And no disrespect, but like, am I really going to pick a team managed by Vlatko Andonovski over a team managed by Jonathan Heraldez? Sometimes football is unfair. And am I going to pick a team coached by Vlatko Andonovski over Seb Hines? Sometimes football is really fucking weird. So yes, I am. I am going to take the Kansas City Current to win the NWSL championship. And I think Tim Wachuinga scores a brace in the final, and she lifts the NWSL championship MVP trophy. And she takes all the trophies, those 2 trophies anyway, back to Malawi.
Tremendous. I love the pick just because We talked about the age profile for KC. So
got into it.
It's not like the window's closing, but what they did last year and probably what mindset must they have been in last year when they're just mowing down everybody, they're scoring on everybody,
Yep.
they're just lapping everybody. Coming into this season, probably a little smarter. You know, you gained some of that wisdom. Vladko another year under his belt. I could absolutely see that. And then the last note that I'm going to make, I think there's some paper rock scissors potential between those three.
Yeah.
Orlando, Washington, KC.
For sure.
Where I think KC is a tough matchup for Washington because KC can score with anybody, and you know the game could get out of reach pretty quickly.
Yep.
So I think KC to win the whole thing, super live. I love that pick.
I appreciate it, buddy. And you know what? I mean, I feel like we've nailed this. We made the fun picks. We made picks based on research. What else do you want from two bros just making really what comes down to just educated guesses? The picks are laid to bear. Mock us in the comments if you want. But if you're going to do that, at least tell us what your pick is.
Definitely. Yeah, we want you on record too. Don't just come in here and talk shit.
Yeah.
All right, man. Quick look ahead. NWSL football returns this weekend, which means we'll be back next week to break down everything we saw this weekend. Cannot wait for that to get going. Our 8 Champions League quarterfinalists also hit the pitch this weekend. How about a little Bayern versus Wolfsburg from Bundesliga on Friday? Pumped for that. Lyon takes on Reims. Everton hosts Arsenal. Chelsea versus City for the League Cup. Real Madrid versus Deportivo La Coruna. Barcelona heads to Tenerife. Both of those Liga F matches going on Saturday. And then to cap it all off, a little PSG versus Paris FC.
Love that.
Can't wait for that. All of that leads really nicely into the UEFA Women's Champions League quarterfinal, which kicks off Tuesday, March 18th. You already know we'll be back. Now we're back on double duty. Champions League quarterfinals, NWSL, everything in between. You know, it's going to be a busy season, but I don't know. I think we're stocked up on our frosty beverages to the point where I think we're going to get through it just fine. With that said, anything else you want to hit before we get out of here?
I think that's it, man. I'm glad you mentioned PSG versus Paris FC, even though those two clubs are not in the Champions League. We still hold a place in our hearts for them. Great weekend of international football. No spoilers, please, on Bayern Wolfsburg on Friday. I got a busy work day. I'm probably going to save that for either late Friday night or Saturday morning, something, or maybe Saturday afternoon based on the other football that's going to be played. But I cannot wait to watch that Bayern Wolfsburg match. That is going to be a banger.
Yep. Big stakes in that one for sure. All right, man. I think we did it. This has been an episode of Into the Channel. Thank you for hanging out. If you enjoyed the show or love women's football as much as your boys do, make sure you're kicking it with us each and every single week. Like if you liked, subscribe, follow YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you like to watch or listen. Leave us a review over your favorite podcast app. We want to hear from you. We love hearing from you. Links to all of our socials except one in the show notes of this episode. And a big thank you to my co-host as well, Mr. Granango, for, you know, when we're talking synergy, you might be the only guy that I'd want behind me in a trust fall, my guy. I appreciate you, bro.
Likewise, buddy. And you know what? Maybe I'm the second choice because I would be remiss if I did not mention from our NWSL team draft episode, our pal Michael Cockane, who made sure to let us know to watch out for Kennedy Fuller from Angel City FC. Good call, Michael. Sorry we didn't mention her on the episode, but you're our guy, just like everybody else who always rocks with us. We appreciate the kind words, the knowledge you drop in the comments. Thank you so much for all of that, and we will see you all next time.